Painting a community mural is more than just applying paint to the wall. It's about involving the community in the process to create something that would reflect the history, culture, and values of the community of Bangor, PA.
For Jim to have that idea to say, hey, you know, this would be some blank building, this would look really neat here. And then tie in the history of the town and talk to the different community members and have been archiving.
It kind of also shows what Toscap Art Institute has been doing for the community, and this has been a really big way to display it and get that thought out into the open that what they've been doing is actually, it gives a lot more of an impact.
My little sister, she was taking these art classes, and they sounded like a ton of fun. So, you know, I thought I would come in and see what she does.
I'm just come here last year to learn more about paint and draw, and Mr. Gloria said me, okay, summer we doing mural, all kids go.
And once I heard that we were going to be doing a mural, I was totally psyched and I was totally in for it.
Has either of you ever worked on a project like this before?
Oil painting has never really been, or just any painting in general, has never been anything that I've really been acquainted with.
It's the first time I ever worked on a mural before.
I have never gotten the opportunity to paint a mural before.
Yeah, it wasn't just going up to a wall and saying, hey, I'm gonna paint something here. It's great.
The kids were from different school districts, from 12 years old to 17. There were 7 kids off and on. You know, sometimes they'd all be quiet. That was amazing because they were all, they were, well, sometimes. They learned constantly. It was a constant learning process for them.
So how do you get from this blank wall to this finished image? What's the process? There's a lot of mystery associated with it. People want to know how do you pull this rabbit out of the hat? How do you make this? It's magic to them in a way. I feel very strongly about sort of demystifying the process. I like public art. I like making something in view of people so they can watch it happen and see that it's not about magic. It's not about being born with talent. It's about process. We start with a rendering of what's existing. We have a scale drawing with a scale figure, or 1/2 inch to the foot, and the architectural elements of the existing building, so we know what we have, what we're dealing with. Painting on a large-scale mural, the surface isn't ideal. In this case, we did plaster the wall with an historic mortar. This historic mortar allows the building to breathe and move and settle without being damaged. So, in essence, we have a blank canvas. The final rendering, I chose to use the actual paint system that was going to be used on the wall itself. Rather than the paint sitting on the surface of the wall, it actually acts as a skin, protecting the wall and breathing like the wall, so that water can permeate the wall in both directions. One problem with the paint, or challenge, is that it has a very limited palette. 10 colors in all, including black and white. That and clear were the only tools I had to represent an infinite palette.
Sometimes matching the paints were a little hard. To actually get it to look the same, you had to do a lot of time and work.
Trial and error, getting different colors, trying to put them on the building, realizing that they didn't work, and then trying to just do more and more and just keep on going with the process.
Whenever I would go to paint, I would put too much paint on my palette, and Mr. Gloria would drill me on it and drill me on it and drill me on it and drill me on it.
From there, we start to formulate ideas in meetings. For me, it actually started with a back of a placemat sketch. It was a design committee, myself, meeting and discussing. It's the first large-scale mural in a town, so the impulse is going to be, we want all of it. We want the town's cultural history. We want the town's ethnicities. We want all of the events of the town. We want every building in the town. So my job is to guide the process to get people to focus and to come up with more of a singular idea. I started with 3 arches as framing devices and also as a way to create different layers of a mural. Some of these ideas may have stayed, some get cast off. One of the techniques that have been used for ages is in transferring a small-scale image to a large-scale image, creating a corresponding grid on the rendering and on the actual wall.
I didn't think that there would be a grid that we would have to follow, like a set thing. I sort of figured we would just sort of go at it, which now when I look back and thinking about it, that would have turned out terrible.
So the first part is creating the cartoon of the image, which is just an outline. It comes from the Italian for cartone, which is big paper. The architectural elements are just drawn directly on the wall. Going grid by grid, the students painstakingly transferred the figures, the flags, the stripes, and every other element in the image.
And you have to make sure everything gets transferred properly so that way nothing looks out of proportion.
I think it was it was some weird number. It was 1 inch and 1/8 of an inch. I had it off because I forgot a number when I was measuring it, and we had to completely take the thing and move it, and we had to move the column over 1 inch and 1/2 inch, and we lost a day of work because I had forgot this number, and I was oh. Because he gave me these important jobs, and I'm I can't do this. And turns out I was right.
Because it's not, some of it's going to look similar, some of it isn't. It's part of the fact that there's more than one person just working on the mural. It kind of shows that you let other people's ideas come into play, and it's pretty interesting that way.
The way they work together, how it changed. In the beginning, there was a little more tripping over each other, and then in the end, they were like a group.
He was a little worried about maybe messing something up, but Jim reassured him that he wasn't going to, and taught him the whole process of what steps to take and how to overcome those little difficult challenges. But
when I had to redo the bricks 4 or 5 times over because I couldn't just get those lines right, I'm actually happy that I didn't say good enough.
I actually did have to repaint lines on the flag a lot, like the stars, because I couldn't just get them in line how they were supposed to be. But I finally did after a few tries.
The one day when I was there, my granddaughter, Evan, there was another student that was there, but wasn't there at the time of learning a process that Jim had taught her. And she took the leadership at 12 years old to show the other student that was older how to do what they needed to do.
The perspective in the mural project actually gave me a head start in the CAD class that I'm taking. Art's been a lot more fun now that I understand perception of 3D objects.
Most importantly is, where is the viewer standing? If someone was walking down the sidewalk and they first see this mural, how do I represent it so that that makes sense to them, that ideal place when they first are affected by the mural? So from that point, the design springs. All of the buildings line up, or vanish, as we say in the trade. All of the people, everything diminishes or shrinks to that point. It's what pulls you into the picture. On the sidewalk, 25 feet away. Final design element of the mural is to integrate it into the landscape of the town itself.
It's positioned exactly on the street that the picture of the mural is. You look down the street and you kind of step to the side and, wow, this is how it was in the 1800s and this is how it is today.
And it's also not just a mural that would just be about any sort of abstract work. It's actually a mural that's talking about something.
When I came to the design meeting and I added the marching band in the rendering, she said, oh no, that's not the 4th of July, that's Old Home Week. A typical thing of that era, where a town would kind of have a homecoming and they'd have a town party. It turns out that this Old Home Week depicted from all these photos was 100 years ago to the day when we were going to complete the mural.
One of my favorite aspects of the mural is when we painted it, we actually used real people.
Visitors to the mural began to tell us stories about the town, that they had lived in this building, occupied businesses, that their ancestors were shop owners or postmasters.
It's more personal that way, I think. It's more unique to Bangor itself.
First we did like all these people and stuff. It's like geometry.
When you're drawing a building, it's just a building, but when you're drawing a person, you need to sort of capture that personality in their face. I did a lot of work on Mary Steckel.
A businesswoman from around the turn of the last century.
A gentleman approached me and said, "That's my grandfather."
Sometimes I just stop by the mural to pet the horse.
Gertrude Mary Smith Bodie was the first African-American graduate of what would become ESU in 1904.
Their 99-year-old daughter was brought here the day of our dedication, and she touching the images of her parents.
I just sort of thought of it as all of us just doing what we love. I mean, I didn't really consider how big it would be. Like, I went to the dedication and I looked around, I was like, where did all these people come from?
The dedication was, I think, the thing that made me most impressed with the people from this area. I've lived here for 20 years, and it's the first time I ever felt that so many people cared about something so much.
We had people who couldn't get enough of it stopping by just to watch the process go on, and they literally couldn't stay away. They were here every day.
I think Jim worked on that a good 14 hours a day, 12 hours a day sometimes.
When I saw the process and the mural, I'm wondering what they're doing.
Jim's students that produced it, I thought that was a plus, because they too, they have an interest in the art itself, plus they learn the history of the borough.
And then after a couple of weeks, and then when I explore the design, I love it. I say, wow.
And it was interesting to come to see it come to life.
People, I think, are just almost like infatuated with it.
No one would expect to find a piece of art, and it is a piece of art like that in the downtown Bangor area.
We build on who we are, what we look like, what our assets are.
Part of, I think, what Bangor's going through is really finding its new voice. In the past, there was slate quarries and textiles and just the mom and pop shops that have existed here. And I think part of finding a new identity has been to look at projects and like the mural and the revitalization project overall to say, well, what are we going to be in the future?
This is where we came from. This is where we got to.
I think it's just really awesome that we could have done this.
You can tell people, meet at the mural, and they know what you're talking about.